Bringing our awareness to the stability and balance in our posture. Trying to stay upright, shoulders relaxed, arms in your lap, on your knees. And if your feet are on the ground, place them flat on the ground. If you're sitting on a cushion, sitting cross-legged, just feeling a sense of solidity and ease as you become aware and attentive to your body. Letting that solidity of a mountain balanced with an openness and ease, the openness of space that your body feels as you sit as a mountain. And bringing your attention to your breath. There's the natural flow of the in-breath and the out-breath. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. And breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Being aware of the whole length of the breath, from the beginning of the in-breath to the end of the in-breath, from the beginning of the out-breath to the end of the out-breath. Not trying to control the breath, just being aware of the breath in a non-reactive way. Noting if it's a short breath or a long breath. And you can feel it in the sensations of the abdomen, as your abdomen rises with the in-breath and falls with the out-breath. And you find it easier, you can put your hand on your abdomen Feeling the rise and fall of the abdomen with each in-breath and each out-breath. Just enjoying each breath, this bringer of life into our bodies, the breath of life, just enjoying each breath in that way. And bringing that gentle half smile of awareness that we are alive, we have an opportunity to sit together, even if virtually. And we are present with our mind and body wherever we are. So, dear brothers and sisters, today we have sat together for a morning meditation, but also gathered to recite the 5 mindfulness trainings. These trainings have the capacity to protect life and make it beautiful. They encourage us in the direction of peace and joy and liberation, the pathway of awakening. And they're the foundation for both individual happiness and the happiness of family and society, the wider happiness. So the mindfulness trainings are an ethical base that help us avoid making mistakes, which of course create suffering and fear, despair. And practicing the trainings, we're able to build peace and happiness in ourselves and our family, and joy and peace in our society. So the wholesome collective energy of the community assembled for the recitation of the 5 trainings will support those who have formally received the trainings earlier, many of us on our retreat, which finished a few weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And those of us who have not formally received the trainings, please listen to them with an open mind, non-judgmental mind, as a teaching that waters the seeds of awakening of mindfulness. So representing the community today, we have Tina Sani, Ajir Vidya, Poonam Sahi, Manish Kalrani, and Gitanjali Seth. And they will now recite the 5 trainings one by one. And please listen carefully to each training with a calm and clear mind, and answer yes silently, wherever you are. Every time you see that you've made an effort to study, practice, and observe the mindfulness training read. The first mindfulness training, reverence for life.
Aware of the suffering caused by the destruction of life, I am committed to cultivating the insight of interbeing and compassion, and learning ways to protect the lives of people, plants, animals, and minerals. I am determined not to kill, not to let others kill, and not to support any act of killing in the world, in my thinking, or in my ways of life. Seeing that harmful actions arise from anger, fear, greed, and intolerance, which in turn come from dualistic and discriminative thinking, I will cultivate openness, non-discrimination, and non-attachment to views in order to transform violence, fanaticism, dogmatism in myself and in the world.
This is the first of the 5 mindfulness trainings. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The second mindfulness training, true happiness.
True happiness. Aware of suffering caused by exploitation, social injustice, and oppression, I'm committed to, I'm determined not to steal and not to possess anything that belongs to others. And I shall share my time in need. I will practice looking deeply to see that the happiness and suffering of others are not separate from my own happiness and suffering. That true happiness is not possible without understanding and compassion, and that running after wealth, fame, power, and sensual pleasures can bring much suffering and despair. I am aware that happiness depends on mental attitude and not on external conditions, and that I can live happily in the present moment simply by remembering that I already have more than enough conditions to be happy. I'm committed to practicing right livelihood so that I can help reduce the suffering of living beings on earth and stop contributing to climate change.
This is the second of the 5 mindfulness trainings. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The third mindfulness training, true love.
Please
Poonam,
unmute yourself.
you'll have to unmute yourself. No, it's still muted. No, still muted.
Is that okay now?
Yeah, perfect.
True love. Aware of the suffering caused by sexual misconduct, I'm committed to cultivating responsibility and learning ways to protect the safety and integrity of individuals, couples, families, and society. Knowing that sexual desire is not love and that sexual activity motivated by craving always harms myself as well as others, I'm determined not to engage in sexual relations without true love and a deep, long-term commitment made known to my family and friends. I will do everything in my power to protect children from sexual abuse and to prevent couples and families from being broken by sexual misconduct. Seeing that body and mind are one, I'm committed to learning appropriate ways to take care of my sexual energy and cultivating loving kindness, compassion, joy, and inclusiveness, which are the 4 basic elements of true love, for my greater happiness and the greater happiness of others. Practicing true love, we know that we will continue beautifully into the future.
This is the third of the 5 mindfulness trainings. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? The 4th mindfulness training, loving speech and deep listening.
Aware of suffering caused by unmindful speech and the inability to listen to others, I am committed to cultivating loving speech and compassionate listening in order to relieve suffering and to promote reconciliation and peace in myself and among other people, ethnic and religious groups, and nations. Knowing that words can create happiness or suffering, I am committed to speaking truthfully using words that inspire confidence, joy, and hope. When anger is manifesting in me, I am determined not to speak. I will practice mindful breathing and walking in order to recognize and to look deeply into my anger. I know that the roots of anger can be found in my wrong perceptions and lack of understanding of suffering in myself and in the other person. I will speak and listen in a way that can help myself and the other person to transform suffering and see the way out of difficult situations. I am determined not to spread news that I do not know to be certain, and not to utter words that can cause division or discord. I will practice right diligence to nourish my capacity for understanding, love, joy, and inclusiveness, and gradually transform anger, violence, and fear that lie deep in my consciousness.
This is the 4th of the 5 mindfulness trainings. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? the fifth mindfulness training, nourishment and healing.
Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I'm committed to cultivating good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I will practice looking deeply into how I consume the four kinds of nutriments, namely edible foods, sense impressions, volition, and consciousness. I'm determined not to gamble or to use alcohol, drugs, or any other products which contain toxins, such as certain websites, electronic games, TV programs, films, magazines, books, and conversations. I will practice coming back to the present moment to be in touch with the refreshing, healing, and nourishing elements in me and around me, not letting regrets and sorrow drag me back into the past, nor letting anxieties, fear, or craving pull me out of the present moment. I'm determined not to try to cover up loneliness, anxiety, or other suffering by losing myself in consumption. I will contemplate interbeing and consume in a way that preserves peace, joy, and well-being in my body and consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of my family, my society, and the earth.
This is the fifth of the 5 mindfulness trainings. Have you made an effort to study, practice, and observe it during the past month? So, dear sisters and brothers, we have recited the 5 mindfulness trainings, which are the foundation for happiness for the individual, the family, and society. And by practicing them, you will be able to help others, and of course, yourself, in understanding yourself and how we can be non-reactive to situations that arise, especially when we have a sense of ethical base. As we said earlier, it's like the North Star. We don't have to feel a sense of guilt or anything like that when we don't act in a certain accordance with the 5 trainings. They're more like a direction, more like a sort of guide. And this was developed by the Buddha 2,500 years ago, and it's probably there in all spiritual traditions. So I will invite 3 sounds of the bell, and then share a small gatha, which is like a sharing of the merit. So whatever benefit we get from reciting the trainings, doing this together, meditating together, we then share out always to others who may be suffering at this time, who may have some need in their own body or their mind or healing. Reciting the trainings, practicing the way of awareness, gives rise to benefits without limits. We vow to share the fruits with all beings. We vow to offer tribute to parents, teachers, friends, and numerous beings who give guidance and support along the path. So friends, enjoy this week or this to the next time we sit together, and try and see if you can bring the 5 trainings into your life. Maybe you can try and do one a day in a week. And they're a very concrete way of practicing mindfulness. They're non-sectarian and their nature is universal. And they're basically practices of compassion and understanding. So the first training, of course, is to protect life, to decrease violence in oneself, in the family, and in society. And the second is based on practicing social justice, generosity, and not stealing and not exploiting other living beings. And the third is the practice of responsible sexual behavior in order to protect individuals, couples, families, and most importantly, children. And the fourth is the practice of deep listening and loving speech to restore communication and reconcile. And the fifth is about mindful consumption to help us not bring toxins and poisons into our body. So they're just wonderful practices to develop as we go along our path. So I'll now invite the bell, 3 sounds the bell, to close, and see you again.